At a loss and close to divorcing. My husband was an excellent boyfriend. We're the same age, mid-20s. He worked to fulfill my love languages. He spent quality, non-electronic time with me. He helped me with chores. We got married 10 months ago. The night that we came home from the ceremony, everything changed. We didn't do anything during our honeymoon, which was a week long, except stay home because he wanted to play on the Switch I bought him. We literally didn't do any of the activities I had planned. He refused to do chores. If he was upset, he'd stop talking to me. He'd pack up and leave the house when I'd ask for help with chores. He became physically violent, hitting my 2 dogs when he was angry. He was the baby boy in his family. His mom even said I was abusive because I was making him do dishes. It was his only chore. I cooked every night, made his lunches, worked 2 jobs, and was taking 10 credits at school. I finally broke down last week. I couldn't deal with it anymore. He spends 6+ hours on electronics every night. I asked him if he no longer likes doing stuff with me. He couldn't answer. I asked him if he wanted to stay married. He couldn't answer. He locked himself in my bathroom. We both have our own bathroom, and said he no longer wanted to talk to me. He often refuses to talk to me for several hours every week. I, and my 2 dogs, went to my parents' house that night and told him I'd be back the next day. Well, after making sure it was okay with him if I came back home, I drove the hour to go home. He threatened to kill himself, so I called 911. They said he was fine. Apparently he was doing it to guilt me. He refused to see me, because he was mad I called 911, so I had to drive the hour to go back to my parents. When he finally asked for me to come back home, 2 days later, I sent him my list of 4 things for him to do if he wanted to stay married. Find a link to a therapist and send it to me. No hitting me or the dogs. He's never hit me, but he has hit the dogs twice before, and I do not stand for that. Has to wake himself up in the morning, has to help with chores, 15 minutes a day. He agreed to these terms. I told him that he had a month to do these things or he'd file for divorce. I told him if he didn't help with chores for 4 days in a row, I would file for a divorce. As a note, this conversation happened last week. He helped with chores twice. It wasn't for 15 minutes, but he helped, so I let it slide because he did help a little bit. Well, for 4 days in a row, he didn't help with any chores whatsoever, with today being the 4th day. I reminded him today about that. He stayed on the couch on his computer. The reason why I feel so torn is because he did send me a link to a therapist website. When I took him grocery shopping with me, he picked out a nail polish color. He took me to Chili's and he wasn't on his phone the entire time. He finally went hiking with me. I've been asking for a year to go hiking. We didn't go on the hike I wanted to. He said that 3.5 miles round trip was too long, and we went on the shortest hike there instead, 2 miles round trip. He wanted to turn back halfway, but I convinced him not to. I feel so lost and alone. What happened to the loving man that wanted to do stuff with me? What happened to the person that wanted to spend time just talking? Do you guys have any advice for how to not feel bad about filing for divorce? My God, divorce the man-child. You deserve so much better than this. It's time to move on and call it a learning experience. He sounds dreadfully immature, sadly. Do you want to wait to see if he can grow up, and how long it might take? Read through what you have written and imagine that it was your best friend telling you this. You would tell her that she is an abusive relationship that is only going to get worse. He's already hit your dogs. That is reason enough to leave. You need to get out before he starts hitting you as well. You don't need to feel bad about divorce. No one should have to put up with what you have. Pack your bags and get to your parents until you can find somewhere else to live. You need their support right now to help keep you safe. This is so disappointing. You have asked for the rock bottom minimum and he can't even do that. I think your basic list is brilliant. It is concrete. It would be so easy for him to fulfill this. And he won't. Or isn't. Please separate. Try therapy. Give him a new list of goals to accomplish while in therapy. Life is too short to settle for someone who won't even do what you've asked. He may need to hit rock bottom to realize what he might lose. He may even need to lose you. But you shouldn't settle for his absolutely subpar treatment. Best of luck. This is absolutely classic domestic violence behavior. As soon as you're married, his true personality starts to show. You object and he does just enough to keep you hopeful that things will change. He gives you little glimpses of the man you fell in love with, but it is very likely that his behavior will get worse, not better. The violence toward your dogs is especially concerning. I hope he does go to therapy, but at only 10 months in, You need to decide if it's a risk you're willing to take. Anyone can look up a therapist online. Anyone can make an appointment. It doesn't mean he'll go. I'd be willing to bet that if he does go, he'll only go once or twice, determine that it's a waste of time and never go again, but throw out that he tried it every time you try to address his behavior. Why would you feel bad? You wanted to marry a man and instead it turns out you married a manipulative child. It's good for him he started to look for a therapist, but you don't need to be with him through that. A marriage is a partnership and yet he's taking advantage of you. Do you even realize how low your standards have gotten for you to practically beg for 15 minutes of chores a day? He became physically violent, hitting my 2 dogs when he was angry. This is the deal breaker. You don't need to feel bad about anything. He did a bait and switch, and fuck him and his family, and the chores that aren't done. He is violent. Take the dogs and go. Waste no time feeling bad. You let him hit your dogs, twice, and you're still with this guy? And you're still considering being with him? Because he picked out nail polish? What is wrong with you, seriously? If you're gonna stay with him, at least rehome your dogs so he doesn't end up killing them. You need a reality check. My significant other won't go to bed with me. Every night my significant other, 22M, plays video games into the late hours. I, 23F, struggle to sleep without him, and I just asked him if he could take a night or 2 to spend with me and go to sleep with me instead of staying up playing games. He reacted poorly to this, saying he's a grown man, and he doesn't have to work his schedule around me, etc. I feel totally powerless and worthless. He walked out of the room saying this was an unfair demand to put on him. What do I do? Wild takes in here. I go to bed around midnight and my girlfriend is a huge night owl, sometimes stays up to 4-5. When we first started dating I would get pissed off about it and try to get her to go to sleep earlier, which just led to her laying there awake until 4-5 anyways. Pointless. Eventually I realized I had to compromise and let her do what she wants as long as it doesn't affect her being a functioning adult. You've got to let people be themselves in relationships. You're free to break up with the person over this obviously if it's a deal breaker, but I think it's wrong to try to force them to stick to your schedule. He is about to be maidenless. What do you mean, you cannot sleep without him? Before you lived together, you also managed to sleep without him, so what changed? You also said that you go to bed quite early, 10 p.m., while he has a whole different sleep schedule. I mean, what do you expect him to do? Lay down in bed for hours and hours on end, watching the ceiling and going crazy until he finally falls asleep 5 hours later? As others have mentioned, you could try to make some kind of compromise that he could go to bed with you 1-2 times a week until you fall asleep. After that he could still get up until it's time for him to sleep. But I don't think that you can expect more from him, to be honest. In a relationship you don't have to have the exact same schedules. My partner works early mornings and I work afternoons and evenings, so normally he goes to bed around 10-11 and I go to bed around 2. A great suggestion could be asking him to come lay with you for a bit until you fall asleep. Then he can get up and do whatever he wants until his natural cycle sets in. Or, if it's a weekend, you can try staying up a bit later with him. That's what my partner and I do. I can tell you, as a night owl, I use this time late at night as a time to decompress when the rest of the world is turned off. It's extremely relaxing for some people, but I totally understand your point of view. It's about making it work for both of you. What time do you usually go to bed, and what time does he usually go to bed? What time do you both need to get up? If you struggle to sleep without him, that's a you problem that needs fixing. T-boyfriend, I don't know what you expect. He's not tired and he doesn't want to go to bed, so you want him to lie next to you, doing nothing until you fall asleep because it makes you feel more comfortable? You want him to go to bed at 10 p.m.? Yeah, I can see him not wanting to do that. Might be time to learn to be able to fall asleep by yourself. I, 54M, have a broken relationship with my daughter, 15F, and I don't know how to fix it. I have been a single parent from the beginning. Her mother, my ex-wife, divorced me and signed over her parental rights when my daughter was born. X took no interest on my daughter until when she was 7, and I allowed her one time of unsupervised visitation, during which she overlooked my child's dietary restrictions and gave her extremely hot food, which my daughter couldn't consume due to digestive problems, which triggered a bad reaction. That was the first and last time they spent time together, and my ex died shortly afterwards. I'm not a good person. I wasn't before she was born, and I wasn't after. I provided her with the materials necessary to survive, but I didn't have a good emotional relationship with her. I held on too tight and was very strict about things ranging from etiquette to her education, which I took seriously. I've always made her study, and now it's all she ever does because that's how I made her to be. She's a very smart cookie and even skipped a grade. But since I never made an effort to be a good parent to her, she's distant from me and she's afraid of me. I realized my mistakes too late, and by then I didn't know how to confront her. I feel like a hypocrite. I haven't shown her affection for the duration of her childhood, and now I don't know how to start because I need to talk to her about all the things I've done and failed to do, and I don't know how. Every time I try to, I freeze. I recently started a relationship with someone who believed I could change for the better. I suppose I've never had someone who actually believed in me, so I fell easily. P.S. I haven't been in any relationships after my ex-wife. She moved in with us. My daughter spends most of her day at school and off-school courses, so she and my partner, Rose, haven't spent a lot of time together, at least not when I'm around. My partner sees disrespect in my daughter's refusal to drop off the things she does so she could spend more time with her future step-parent. I told her it's me who has ingrained this behavior in my daughter, but Rose kept turning the blame towards my daughter again, saying that she's not a kid anymore. That should have been my initial red flag of the relationship, but I just brushed it off as Rose not having had children of her own to understand. I'm stupid for that. I told her to take whatever complaints she has about my daughter directly to me, as I haven't mended my relationship with her and I don't want more mess. She dropped it and didn't complain, and I thought that was it. Now comes something I originally posted on another subreddit to know if I'm the asshole or not, but now I can't see anywhere that points out to me, _not, being the asshole. While making dinner, Rose insisted I make it spicy, and when I told her I'd do it afterwards, she said that it doesn't taste the same. I told her I couldn't make it hot because of my daughter and she said that she's tired of me cooking bland food just to please her, which isn't true. I add spices, just not something that would make the food extremely spicy. And that my daughter is 15, she can make her own meals. She says she's tired of making food hot after it's done. I do it, and not using regular milk in anything. My daughter is lactose intolerant. I keep regular milk as well, but only for personal use, not in shared food. I complied because I felt bad that I was forcing my child's restrictions onto her. Someone messaged and pointed out to me how her argument that my daughter being 15 and able to cook for herself could be easily overturned by Rose being an adult also capable of cooking for herself. I should have backfired with that. We had dinner early because she wanted to go to bed earlier, so by the time my daughter came back we'd already eaten. My daughter had a group project so she was home later than usual. When it was the time we usually have dinner, she asked and I told her I had made dinner too spicy for her to eat so she should make something for herself. Even though I'd already said I'd be cooking earlier in the day, we always split up chores beforehand. She left and didn't look me in the eye when I told her good night, just mumbled it back. I screwed up with this. I disregarded my own child for another person's sake. I will end the relationship, but I need to first talk with my daughter and I don't know how. I want to apologize for everything I've ever done to her up until now. How can I do that? I've never had a heart-to-heart conversation with her. Every time I see her, I want to pull her to me, but I've never even _hugged her. How do I approach her? And #X200B. Too long did not read. I've never been a good parent to my daughter and I royally managed to screw her up even after I realized I'm a horrible parent. I prioritized a woman's wants over my child's needs. How do I fix my relationship with her? I think honestly ending the relationship should come first so you can show your daughter that you don't want to be with someone who can't treat her well. Maybe show her this post, or try writing a letter with your feelings, but definitely kick Rose to the curb first and foremost. How long did you know this woman before she moved in? Boot her out first. Talk is cheap, so show your daughter you're putting her first. Then try some family counseling to improve your relationship. Please break up with your girlfriend immediately. Apologize to your daughter. Maybe even show her this post, and get into family therapy. How about break up with this girlfriend and actually start putting your daughter first? You already know what you need to do, but because of some toxic masculinity bullshit in your head you refuse to show your daughter affection. My father hugs me whenever he sees me, he calls me his baby girl. He always says I love you. He's there whenever I need him. I can't ever remember the last I wanted something and he refused me. Dads out their daughters first, not a piece of pussy. Apologize to your daughter about dinner and talk to her about how you are going to start putting her first. She's at an extremely critical age right now, and if you don't show you she's you number one and you will love and care for her, then you will lose her. Is that what you want? One option is to work with a family counselor. My sense op is that you're both self-aware and hard on yourself. It must have been very hard for you daughter not to have as much affection as she deserved and probably craved. But it's not unheard of for kids to grow up with authoritarian parents and still turn out okay. And taking care of someone's material needs means a lot. But it sounds like the biggest issue now is a lack of communication along with a lack of hugs. And a good therapist working with the two of you should be able to at least get the two of you talking. And a good first step may be to let your daughter know that you're having a really hard time figuring out how to proceed, and you'd like to try a counselor. First thing to do is end the relationship with Rose. Then your daughter will know you are serious before you promise anything. She'll see you already have made a huge change. It's going to be difficult, but honesty is the main thing. A really good family therapist would be beneficial and potentially somebody for just your daughter to speak to. The good thing is you're clearly very aware of what needs changed and the impact the lack of emotions and hugging could have had on your daughter, but it's not too late to change things. The damage you have already done to your daughter is so severe that I don't think you can come back from it. You've controlled her whole life, never shown her affection, always been dictatorial, invited an abusive bitch into your life and home, and now you want to fix it? I feel sick just reading this. You can try, but when she wants nothing to do with you and turns 18 and never sees you again, you have no one to blame but yourself. And don't you dare think that you can meet someone else and have a do-over kid, but I'm willing to bet you would. My heart. Your poor baby, I don't even want to think about what she's going through right now. The replies you've gotten says everything I'd say. Please don't let this week end before you take some action. You acknowledging this is a start. I can't get used to the TV screaming all night. My boyfriend has to watch the TV all night, doesn't sleep, and I wouldn't care if the volume was low, but it's like volume 50, him sitting up, watching or listening to loud music on his phone all night. We have a very small apartment and I also have 2 kiddos, so they have to sleep through the noise as well. Whenever I ask him to lower it or pick one loud noise, he gets mad and tells me I don't respect his comfort measures. I want to be reasonable, but he won't move in permanently because he says I don't respect the way that he is. Today he stormed out of the house because I asked him to pick the loud music or the loud TV. How do people deal with these things? No offense, but your man is a top-notch asshole. Kick him out and don't let him come back. Normal people use headphones. He could. But he doesn't care one tiny bit about anyone except himself. I wouldn't have someone like that in my house in the first place. Wait, he has his own place? That's the answer right there. Boy, bye. I don't have time nor the energy to have someone in my house acting foolish. He can go to his place and make all the noise he wants. Why should he bring it to you and disturb your peace? No way. He hasn't learned how to share a space and compromise, which is a big factor in a relationship. He has to learn that. I would not tolerate that at all since I am a light sleeper. Your kids should not have to deal with that. Also, you don't know how it is affecting them. You need to put your foot down. So here's the deal, it doesn't matter if he or other people sleep like this. You don't sleep like this and he refuses to compromise, plus you have 2 children to think about. He won't turn down the TV or music, he doesn't care if you can't sleep, he expects you to respect his comfort measures, but he doesn't care about yours. He doesn't care about your children or their comfort either. You don't live together yet, and that's great. So just tell him that since you can't reach a compromise on the TV, he should go home in the evenings when you go to bed. Problem solved. Do not let this man disrupt you or your children's sleep, and don't be bullied into thinking that is normal. How do people deal with these things? I cannot think of a legal way of dealing with this. Half a night of that and someone would be in an Uber home. Yeah, that's ridiculous, especially if kids are in the mix. Tell him to FCK off.